Hi everyone, today we're going to be starting the book Ratscalibur by Josh Lieb. I'm going to read the chapters and I hope you enjoy. Before I start though, I want to let you know that the Gilbert Library is open and you can come visit us and pick out some books. So here we go, Ratscalibur. Ratscalibur dreams, Ratscalibur sleeps, till babies hunger, mothers weep. Then will a hero sword uptake, Ratscalibur sings, Ratscalibur wakes. Chapter 1. Joey didn't want to move to the city, but his mom got a really good job offer, so here they were. The apartment was pretty small, just a bedroom for Mom, a bedroom for Joey, and a living room with a little kitchen attached. Right now it was full of brown cardboard boxes stuffed with everything they owned. "Joey, get me a knife," said Mom. She was sitting on the floor ripping open boxes. She was looking for the coffee maker, but she hadn't marked what box it was in. Mom drank a lot of coffee, so this hunt for the coffee maker was getting pretty desperate. Joey handed her a steak knife. They'd already unpacked most of the kitchen. There was still a lot of work to do, but he got kind of scared when he thought about what he'd do when they were done. He didn't know anyone here. That morning, when he was helping the movers carry boxes, he'd spotted some boys across the street. They didn't look like the boys from back home. One of them raised his arm and started to wave at Joey, but the other boy, the bigger boy, punched him on the shoulder, and he put his hand down. After that, they just watched. The city was big. The city was loud. The city was dirty. It was hot, too. But that's the way it was in August anywhere. But hot in the city meant smelly. Every piece of dog poo or pile of garbage bags seemed to have a little cloud of stink around it. Their apartment was on the ground floor, which worried Joey. That made it easy for crooks to just climb in the window. Mom said the iron bars on the windows would keep the bad guys out, but that didn't make Joey feel any better. They hadn't needed iron bars on their windows back home. "Arg!" said Mom as she threw handfuls of Joey's underwear out of a box. Mom had a big vocabulary, but she sounded a lot like a half-awake animal when she didn't get her coffee. All her words would turn into grunts and groans. "No coffee. Coffee maker hiding," she said, and she dug some wrinkled money out of her purse and sent Joey down the street to buy a cup at the store on the corner. The man at the store was nice, but he didn't speak any English. Joey didn't speak any Spanish, so they didn't have anything to say after Joey got the coffee. Next year, in 7th grade, Joey would start taking foreign language classes. It would probably be a good idea to take Spanish. As he walked home, the sidewalk was crowded with people who were in a hurry to go somewhere and other people who weren't in a hurry to go anywhere at all. Joey was bounced around among them like a pinball. He almost spilled the coffee one time when a skinny man in a business suit brushed past him. As he was steadying himself, Joey caught a glimpse of a pile of garbage behind one of the buildings on the block. It was just a big mound of empty bottles, plastic trash bags, and broken baby toys. But something underneath the pile moved. Joey ran the whole way home, not caring if he spilled a little. "Mom, Mom!" he called as he came through the door, but then stopped. Uncle Patrick was there. He must have just walked in, because he and Mom were still hugging, even though Mom looked a little annoyed. Uncle Patrick let her go and turned to Joey. "Hey, Honcho!" He gave Joey a huge hug of his own. Uncle Patrick was big, big, big. He had big hands, big shoulders, and a big, big belly. He didn't have a job exactly, but he spent a lot of time watching football games and falling asleep on the couch. He was kind of like a big friendly dog, which made sense. Mom and Uncle Patrick got along better with animals than people anyway. He was Joey's favorite person, besides Mom. "How you liking life in the big city?" asked Uncle Patrick. Uncle Patrick had lived in the city for a long time, and being close to him was probably the best thing about moving here. Before Joey could answer, before he could say anything about the weird boys across the street or the bars on the windows or the thing that moved inside the garbage, Mom said, "Pretty cute of you to show up after we've done all the moving, Patrick." Uncle Patrick smiled. He had very white teeth, which were very crooked and stuck out of his mouth like a jack-o'-lantern's teeth. He ran his hand through his hair, which was very, very black, and stuck out in messy spikes that looked sharp and dangerous, but were really soft when you touched them. "Aw, you know how it is, sis," he said. "I meant to come by earlier, but something came up." "Yeah," said Mom. I know how it is." She smiled to show she wasn't mad. She couldn't stay mad at Uncle Patrick for very long. He was her little brother, even if he was twice as big as her. Mom pointed at a box Uncle Patrick had brought in, which was covered with a dirty towel. "What's that?" "That," said Uncle Patrick, "is a present for Joey. Go ahead, Honcho, unwrap it." Joey unwrapped the box, which really meant just pulling the towel off it. It wasn't a box, really. It was a cage, like people keep hamsters in, with a wheel for the hamster to run on and a water bottle for the hamster to drink from, and everything. But the thing sleeping in the wood shavings at the bottom of the cage wasn't a hamster. It was twice as long as any hamster, and it had a pointed snout and a long, hairless tail. And everywhere else, it was covered with pure, silvery gray fur. "That," Mom said, "is a rat." Chapter 2. "No, it's a pet rat," said Uncle Patrick. "What better companion could a newcomer to the city have than the ultimate city animal?" He slapped Joey on the back. "Rats are survivors, my man. You could learn a lot from that rat. Besides, the fur reminded me of you." Joey had mostly boring brown hair, not cool black hair like Uncle Patrick, or bright red hair like Mom. But he also had this weird gray streak that ran along the side of his head right over his right ear, like a racing stripe on a car. The streak was the exact same color as the rat. "Where did you get it?" said Mom. "The pet store," said Uncle Patrick. "Is it safe?" asked Mom. "Has it had its shots and everything?" "Sure it's safe," said Uncle Patrick. "Would they sell it if it wasn't safe?" "Why isn't it moving?" asked Joey. Uncle Patrick nudged the cage. The rat snored a little and rolled over on its side. "It's sleeping," said Uncle Patrick. "Rats sleep a lot." He plopped down on the couch and started slapping the cushions. "Hey, nice couch." Joey didn't know how he felt about having a rat for a pet, but he knew his mom wasn't going to let him get anything bigger. The building wouldn't allow it. A rat was better than a goldfish, he guessed. Besides, it was a gift from Uncle Patrick. "I love it," said Joey. Uncle Patrick smiled. "I knew you would. What are you going to call him?" Mom said, "Might I suggest Patrick?" But she was smiling, too, so it didn't seem mean. Joey looked at the rat. It was just sleeping there in the wood shavings, with its fangs hanging out of its mouth. But it looked kind of special. It didn't look like a Patrick. Joey figured he'd come up with a better name later, when the rat woke up. By the time Joey was ready to go to bed, though, the rat still hadn't woken up. Joey put a slice of turkey in the cage, but the rat didn't even seem to notice. Was it sick? Uncle Patrick had said that rats sleep a lot, but this seemed like too much. "You're going to like it here, Joey. You'll see," said Mom. Then she hugged him and kissed him and turned out the light, just like she did when she said goodnight to him back home. But this wasn't like going to sleep back home. The room was weird and smelled weird. Joey's bed was in the wrong corner. None of his posters were on the walls yet. He lay in bed with his eyes wide open, looking at the strange shadows his half-unpacked boxes made on the ceiling. But the weirdest part was all the noise. Joey was used to it being quiet when he went to sleep. Here, nothing was quiet. Mom had left the window open a crack for the fresh air. Now Joey could hear everything outside. Women walking on the sidewalk in their high heels. Kick-cuck, kick-cuck, kick-cuck. Cars growling past, blasting music from their stereos. Boom, 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 boom. Horns honking, cats howling, people laughing. There even seemed to be a little voice saying over and over again, "Boy, boy, boy." Joey listened closely. There was a little voice. It was tiny, but it sounded old and smart, like a professor in a movie, and the words were very clear. "Boy, boy, help me." It wasn't coming from outside, though. Joey looked around the room. The voice seemed to be coming from his bedside table. Joey listened closer. It was coming from the hamster cage on top of the table. "Yes, boy, yes, over here." Joey froze with terror. The voice was coming from the rat. Chapter 3. Joey got out of bed to take a better look. The rat was still lying in the same place, but its eyes were finally open. Joey had expected them to be little black eyes, like strawberry seeds, but they were milky white. "You can talk?" said Joey. It wasn't a question. The rat breathed heavily. It sounded painful. "Yes, but not very much. I am gravely injured." Joey's mind felt completely blank. He didn't know what to think. This couldn't be happening. So he said, "Rats can't talk." The rat scowled. That is a very rude thing to say to a talking rat." But then the rat stopped scowling. "It's not your fault, I suppose. You are very young and ignorant. As you grow older, you'll discover that a lot of things can do a lot of things you didn't think they could." Joey didn't understand what that meant, but he didn't want to get the rat mad at him again. Who are you?" "Ah," said the rat, closing his eyes, "that is a much better way to start a conversation. I am Gondorf the Grey." He said it like it was something to be proud of. "Gondorf the Grey," finished Gondorf. "I am the greatest magician in the realm." These were words, but they didn't make any sense to Joey. "What does a magician do?" "Oh, the usual," said Gondorf. "Spells, potions, incantations, magic." "Oh," said Joey, "don't you mean magic?" Gondorf scowled again. "Man does magic, rats do ragic. It's just common sense, but that's a subject for another time." He opened his eyes and stared at Joey. "And who might you be?" "I'm Joey," said Joey. "Well, young Joey," said Gondorf, "I have an urgent mission I must entrust to you. You must go to King Uther and let him know—" Here the rat paused before finishing. "Let him know that I have failed." "What? What did you fail at?" "It is too long a story for now. I haven't the strength of body or heart to tell it. Just take Uther my message. He will know what to do." The rat hadn't moved anything but his eyes and mouth for the entire conversation. For the first time, Joey realized how much pain Gondorf seemed to be in. He pushed the water bottle and turkey slice closer to Gondorf's mouth. The rat ate and drank gratefully. "Not that it will do much good," said Gondorf. "My time is short. I was dropped from high in the air by a black claw, who was trying to kidnap me. I managed to bite one of its toes, so the black claw let me go. But I am no longer young enough to fly." "How did you end up at the pet shop?" asked Joey. "What pet shop?" snorted Gondorf. "The fat man picked me up from where I'd fallen and stuffed me into a cage he found in the garbage." Joey nodded. That sounded like the kind of thing Uncle Patrick would do. "Enough talk," said Gondorf. "I am weak, but I should have enough strength for a simple transformation. Give me your finger." "What?" "Your finger. Let me see it, boy." Puzzled, Joey pushed his finger through the bars of the cage, right in front of the rat's face. Gondorf stared at the finger for a long minute. "Ah," he said. "Ah, yes, I see. That will do just fine." He turned his eyes toward Joey. "Now, tell me, boy, and this is important, do you give me this finger willingly?" Sure," said Joey. "Good," said Gondorf the Grey, and he bit Joey's finger as hard as he could. Chapter 4. It was the worst pain Joey had ever felt in his whole life. But it didn't even last a second. Before Joey could even yell or pull his finger away, the pain was gone. Everything was gone. For just a flash, the whole world went black, and Joey couldn't feel his finger or his legs or anything. When the flash was over, Joey felt fine. He was on the floor, crouching on all fours, but he didn't hurt anywhere. He tried to stand up, but it didn't seem to work right. He was able to stand, but he didn't get very high when he did. Just a few inches off the floor, the bedside table and the bed loomed high above him. He looked at his hands, but they weren't his hands. They were little and pink, and they had sharp claws on the end of them. His arms were covered with brown fur. "Oh, no," said Joey. He ran to the long mirror that hung on his closet door, but he didn't really run. He scurried on his hands and feet because that felt more comfortable. And when he got to the mirror, he stood up so he could peer into it. He knew what he would see peering back: a rat's snout. It was a little brown rat, about half the size of Gondorf. It had black eyes like baby watermelon seeds and a gray streak running down its right side like a racing stripe. It had long silvery whiskers and a skinny bald tail. And it was Joey. Joey felt his little rat face with his little rat paws. Yes, that was him. He knew he should be scared. He was a rat, but he wasn't scared. Or maybe he was a little scared, but not nearly as scared as he would have thought he'd be. "So, I'm a rat," he thought. "This is definitely the weirdest day of my life." He looked at his rat feet. They looked a lot like his rat hands. He ran his fingers through his brown fur. It felt rough. He waved his tail back and forth and curled it around his body. That was fun. It was kind of nice to have a tail. But just because he wasn't scared, it didn't mean he wanted to be a rat for very long. He scurried back to the bedside table. "Gondorf," he squeaked. "Gondorf the Grey." No answer. If the magician could hear him, he wasn't saying anything. Joey jumped onto the side of his blanket. He was surprised at how high he could jump, and climbed onto his bed. He was surprised at how well he could climb. Then he leaped onto the bedside table and looked into the cage. Gondorf looked sick, very sick. Changing Joey into a rat must have been a lot of work. His eyes were open, but he didn't seem to see anything, and he was lying very still. Joey couldn't tell if Gondorf was even breathing or not. "Gondorf," said Joey, "are you dead? Please don't be dead." Gondorf didn't say anything. He didn't move at all, and suddenly Joey was scared, very, very scared. What if he was stuck being a rat forever? Joey thought as hard as he could. Gondorf had said that he was the greatest magician in the realm. That meant there must be other magicians. Maybe one of them could change him back. But where would he find the other magicians? Where would he find the other rats? His little nose twitched, and suddenly he could smell the scent of rats everywhere, like a cloud of competing smells coming from every possible direction. Through the window, under the floorboards, inside the walls, all spelling R-A-T in capital letters. Joey shook his head. He didn't need just any rat. He needed Uther. His nose twitched again, and just like that, he knew where he had to go. No, it wasn't that simple. He didn't know where he had to go, but he knew how to get there. He could smell it. All the other rat scents dropped away except for one. It smelled a little cleaner than the other, and fragile? It was like there was an invisible fishing line leading from his nose, across the bed, out the window, and after that he didn't know. But he knew that if he followed it, at the very end he would find King Uther. And where there was Uther, he would find magicians, the ones who could turn him back. Joey's nose had never seemed very useful to him before, but he had a feeling now that, as a rat, a nose might be the most valuable thing he owned. He gave a sad look at his bedroom door. He could hear Uncle Patrick snoring out in the living room. He must have fallen asleep on the couch. Joey didn't like the idea of leaving without saying goodbye to Mom, but he was pretty sure she'd completely freak out if a rat crawled into her bed and tried to kiss her on the cheek. Considering what she did to cockroaches that dared just to walk across her kitchen floor, well, Joey didn't even want to think about that. So, he was leaving Mom without saying goodbye for the first time, ever. That was depressing, but it's not like he had a lot of choices. Anyway, the sooner he left, the sooner he'd be back. So Joey ran across the bed, hopped onto the windowsill, and dived out the window. Chapter 5. The street should have been scarier at night than it was in the daytime, but Joey actually felt more comfortable now. Maybe it was because there were fewer people and the ones that were out didn't seem to be in any hurry to go anywhere. But mostly, probably, it was because he was a rat. Rats, thought Joey, must like city streets. What rats definitely liked, he discovered, were smells. A lot of things that usually gross him out were suddenly interesting to him now. Someone had left a chicken bone on the street. That smelled wonderful. There was a squashed cockroach under the tire of a parked bicycle. That smelled like perfume. There was even a dog poo on the corner that smelled like... But Joey made himself look away before he could finish that thought. He couldn't get distracted now. He had to follow his nose and find a magician who could turn him back into himself immediately. He followed the invisible string down the sidewalk. It was easy for him to stay hidden. The only light was the moon and the street lamps, and Joey made sure to keep in the shadows. It was like he didn't need much light to see anyway, just his nose. The trail ran around a corner into an alley behind a building, and suddenly Joey smelled something that didn't smell very good at all. It was coming from the pile of garbage that had scared him when he was getting Mom's coffee. The garbage looked even scarier at night. It was only up to his knee when he was a person, but now it towered over him like a black mountain. The wheels of a broken baby carriage stuck out of the top of the pile and creaked eerily as they turned in the wind. But the worst part was definitely the smell. If dog poo smells good to a rat, thought Joey, everything should. But this didn't smell good at all. It smelled like someone had shoved spicy peppers up both of Joey's nostrils. It didn't just smell bad, it hurt. Something about the smell made Joey think about the something he'd seen moving in the garbage, and he shivered. Then he remembered that he saw that he was now a rat. He was exactly the kind of thing that moved inside garbage piles. Getting freaked out by garbage and the animals that lived in it was pretty silly. The garbage mountain filled up most of the alley except for a path a few inches wide. No matter how bad it smelled, if Joey was going to follow his nose, he was either going to have to climb over it or walk right next to it. Well, thought Joey, I'll just hold my breath and run as fast as I can. It'll only take a few seconds. It was a good plan, but not so easy to follow. First of all, he had to go back into the street to take a deep breath where it didn't smell awful. Then, when he went back around the corner and tried to sprint past the garbage mountain, for some reason he couldn't keep himself from slowing down as he got closer, even though he told his legs to run. His legs really didn't want to run toward the pile, and even though he wasn't breathing, he could feel the bad smell in the back of his mouth, burning its way down his throat like he was swallowing a lit candle made out of chicken fat. But he pushed himself past the mountain, slowly. The candle was in his stomach now. He could feel his insides burning up and leaking out his ears in green smoke. But that was just his imagination. He was so close to the end now, a little further down the path. A brick wall to the left of him, the oily black garbage mountain to his right, and nothing but clean moonlight up ahead. That's when the orange arm reached out and grabbed him. It pulled Joey through the reeking garbage into the middle of the pile. There was no time to think, but Joey knew what was happening. He didn't know how he knew, but he knew. This was a cat. The only thing he felt were its claws sticking into the soft flesh around his neck. The only thing he saw was its dirty yellow teeth about to snap down on him. The only thing that he smelled was death. The cat was going to eat him. And suddenly, Joey knew the only thing he could do. Before the cat could chomp, Joey turned his head, extended his glistening white fangs, and sank them into the cat's paw. The cat tasted like hot, rotten peanut butter, but the bite worked. The cat yowled like a ghost and let go of him. Joey swam through the pile of coffee grounds, newspapers, and wormy banana peels. The cat's claws raked across Joey's back. He could feel his fur growing moist with blood. But the claws hadn't snagged him. Joey leaped out of the garbage into the alley, and the cat leaped out right after him. She was a huge orange tabby with snot-covered whiskers and gnashing teeth. Her paws were dirty and scabby. Her claws were mean, jagged splinters. She had one bright green eye and one dead black eye, and they were both looking right at Joey. Without thinking, he jumped into a hole in the brick wall and scurried to the back, where would it be deep enough? Yes. There was another deeper hole at the back, like a cement nest. Joey dropped into it gratefully and rolled himself into a ball. Above him, an inch away, the cat's claws scratched desperately at the bricks. Scrabble, 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 but she couldn't reach him. After a long, long time, she hissed with frustration and pulled her arm out of the hole. Then he heard her slither back inside her garbage mountain to wait for the next tiny thing that tried to get past her. Joey had never been so scared in his whole life. His little rat heart was beating like a drum. He'd never been this tired before either, and before he knew it, before he could even think if it was really what he should be doing right now, he was asleep. And that's where we're going to stop for today. Keep an eye out for the next ones. See you next time. Bye.